Number 10. Germaphobe. While speaking to Jonathan Ross in a 2015 interview, Priscilla Presley revealed that her late ex-husband was terrified of germs and would take his phobia to the extreme. She claimed that he even refused to use anyone else's silverware, which even included the ones at high-end restaurants. She said that because of his secret germophobia, he never liked to go to other people's homes to eat because he would have to take his own silverware, and that would often cause quite an uncomfortable situation, as you could imagine. Quote, and he didn't like drinking out of cups that other people had drunk out of, even restaurants or other people's homes. So when he drank, he would drink where the handle was, knowing that no one would ever drink at that side. Although this information is not widely known, Priscilla says Elvis has been that way ever since he was a child. She believed that he just didn't like to put his mouth where other people had put their mouth, especially with cutlery and dishes, which is definitely something most people wouldn't have known about the star. Number 9. Liked younger women. In her book Elvis and Me, Priscilla Presley wrote that she just turned 14 when she met Elvis Presley, who was 24 years old at the time and already an international superstar. Despite the scandal, they started an intimate courtship that lasted 7 years before they eventually married in 1967. Now, the age difference is creepy on its own, but it becomes even creepier when you compare that to what Linda Thompson wrote in her own memoir. Thompson, who dated Elvis after his marriage to Priscilla ended, was also very young and inexperienced at the time. In fact, he allegedly told her, quote, I want to preserve you for as long as you need. Whatever he meant by that, it just sounds super icky. Elvis reportedly took advantage of his power to manipulate young, impressionable fans whenever he went on tour. Joel Williamson, who wrote a historical book about Elvis, claimed that 2 years before he met his future wife, the star took a group of 3 girls with him on tour for the purpose of, quote, pillow fights, tickling, and cuddling. Number 8. His vanity. Fame is a terrible drug that often pushes stars into the oddest methods of trying to stay thin and beautiful. Linda Thompson wrote in her memoir that Elvis's obsession with being slim would drive him to bizarre measures to keep the weight off, including an alleged 2-week period of sedation. That's exactly what it sounds like. Elvis mainly slept all day except for brief periods where he woke up long enough to go to the bathroom and eat a small portion of food before being sedated again and going back to sleep. She also claimed that he regularly did crash diets on just 500 calories a day. She also exposed his secret about why he constantly wore shirts with high collars. Apparently, he did it to conceal his neck, which he actually hated. She wrote that the whole reason he wore the trademark style was to keep his, quote, skinny little chicken neck hidden from the public. Then at age 40, Elvis allegedly opted for a facelift. Quote, there has been speculation through the years that Elvis has his eyes done or some other mystery procedure, but that mini facelift was the extent of his plastic surgery. Well, it seems like his ex-wife was really intent on revealing a side of him that was incredibly vain. Number 7. Hidden children. Even though he has been gone for many years, Elvis Presley has always been the center of several new scandals and controversies. One of the many that have hit the headlines in the last few years is that the king of rock and roll supposedly kept hidden children from the rest of the world. The National Enquirer actually conducted a 2-year investigation into the hidden children of the Presley family, reportedly acquiring witness testimonies, checking receipts, mail correspondence, birth certificates, and even DNA tests. The result of the investigation allegedly proves that Elvis did have several additional children that were being kept away from the spotlight of Hollywood. In fact, multiple alleged mothers of Elvis's hidden children have come forward to tell their stories about how they met the star, and the stories have some strange similarities. One example is Desiree Romaine Presley, who is the daughter of Lucy DeBarban, and she claims that her mother was in a 24-year-long relationship with Elvis and was being kept away from the media. But the crazy thing is that Desiree's father is listed as Randolph Presley on her birth certificate, someone who allegedly worked at the Air Force Base in Oklahoma City. Number 6. Attacked his fiancée. After Linda Thompson, Elvis briefly dated Mindy Miller before becoming involved with Ginger Alden, who was a full 20 years younger than him. It was only 2 months into their relationship when Elvis proposed to her and she accepted. The couple planned to walk down the aisle just a few months before Elvis's untimely death, and Alden even said how excited he was about their wedding and their future together as a couple. She revealed to Express that during his final days, quote, Elvis was looking forward to many things: marriage, more children, serious films, and his next tour. But Elvis was reportedly very manipulative when it came to women and could be extremely jealous and controlling. According to sources close to the star at the time, he could get very violent. His treatment of her was horrifying, and the pair constantly argued during their time together. After one particular fight, he allegedly asked someone in his entourage to pop the tires on Alden's car so she couldn't leave his home. And on another occasion, when she was driving away after an argument, Elvis reportedly aimed his weapon at her car and fired. Number 5. Allegations of racism. Last year, Quincy Jones revealed to The Hollywood Reporter that he always refused to work with Elvis because he was a racist. The musician, best known for producing Michael Jackson's albums Thriller, Off the Wall, and Bad, made the comments about Elvis's supposed history of racism in his new interview. The outlet asked Jones about Presley after the producer compared Jackson to the king of rock and roll. The 88-year-old musician and producer described a time when he was writing for the orchestra leader Tommy Dorsey in the 50s, and Elvis came in saying, quote, "I don't want to play with him." Jones went on to call Elvis a racist and added, quote, "But every time I saw Elvis, he was being coached by Otis Blackwell, telling him how to sing." And while there wasn't an overwhelming amount of accusations surrounding Elvis's past racism, there are certainly many allegations against the icon for appropriating black culture and repackaging it to the general public as his own. Despite this, it's obvious that American society still allowed him to have a very successful career, whether it was something the lead singer did consciously or subconsciously. Number 4. Pet chimpanzee. This one is really messed up. Billy Smith, who was a member of Elvis's entourage, openly talked about how Scatter, Elvis's pet chimpanzee, was essentially used as a party favor that they trained to harass women. It said that the chimp would often look for women at parties and grab onto their clothes. According to Smith, Scatter also drank heavily. Quote, "He could down a fifth of liquor before you knew it." Smith remembered another time when Scatter was beaten by a woman at a party for misbehaving. There have been conflicting reports about what really happened to the chimp. Some state that he merely lost his life due to old age, but Smith speculated that Scatter was poisoned by one of the maids who was tasked with feeding him after he was abandoned by Elvis and the crew who were out on the road. Although it's unclear exactly how he passed, it appears as though Scatter took his last breath on his own after years of living the party lifestyle. The whole thing was really rather sad, as it seemed like Elvis and his friends used the chimp just to entertain themselves and discarded him when they went on tour. Number 3. Addicted to medication. It's not unheard of for celebrities to turn to substances as a way to cope with fame and just how crazy their lives become in the spotlight. But Elvis's alleged addictions could have had a very different origin when you look at the tragedy of his mother's passing. In 1958, he was drafted into the US Army, but went to Germany but had to return to the US less than 6 months later because of his mother's untimely death. Many people believe that this marked the beginning of the end for Elvis, who quickly headed down a path of self-destruction. As soon as he returned to Germany, it's reported that Elvis partied heavily and would often get into fights. During this time, he also started taking illegal substances to try and deal with the grief of losing his mother. This probably snowballed, and it's assumed that from that moment on, the misuse of substances played a major role in his life. Linda Thompson wrote several examples in her memoir about these incidents and says that she often found Elvis passed out in a bowl of chicken noodle soup under the influence of sedatives. She even says that doctors tried to hospitalize him for 2 weeks after misusing a combination of medication for far too long. Number 2. Why Priscilla ended things. Because she was only 14 years old when their courtship began, it's really no surprise that she missed out on a huge chunk of her adolescence. She told Jonathan Ross in 2015, quote, "I was kind of lost, really, in who I was earlier in my life. I really didn't have teenage years." After their first child, Lisa Marie, was born, Priscilla accused Elvis of not wanting to sleep with her after she had given birth. Elvis told her that he wanted her to recover, but Priscilla later wrote in her memoir that he had mentioned before they were married that he had never been able to make love with a woman who'd had a child. In fact, throughout their marriage, Elvis continued to cheat on Priscilla with other women, and she herself had her own affair with an owner of a dance studio. It's safe to say that their marriage never really recovered. They finalized their divorce in 1973, and she said that this was because her life was his life, which meant her problems were always going to be secondary. Years later, she admitted that she did not divorce him because she didn't love him, but because she had to find out about the world. She was clearly just way too young when they started seeing each other. Number 1. Erratic violence. In recent years, Linda Thompson has been pretty open about her time with Elvis Presley, stating, quote, "We all knew how dangerous Elvis's rage could be. Apparently, when she first noticed Elvis could get pretty angry was when someone reportedly stole personal photos of one of his ex-girlfriends with another woman. She claimed that he then decided to show off his samurai sword collection while under the influence of illegal substances and left her fearing for her life. Although she said that he was true to his word and he didn't in fact hurt her, she was concerned because his talents were entirely impaired due to the narcotics. These were just some of the several times that his ex said that she worried about his boiling rage. Apparently, the musician even invested in a concealed carry permit to take the weapons on stage with him, including several that were actually stuffed into his shoes, just in case someone got a little bit too rowdy in the crowd. Even singer Tom Jones spoke about Elvis's love of weapons during a visit to his dressing room. Tom said that he noticed a loaded weapon just sat on the side and simply handed it to Elvis by wrapping it in a towel. Sounds a little crazy to me.
And at number 10, Britney bribed her parents' divorce. One of the most shocking revelations from Jamie Lynn's book and interviews was the fact that her parents never had the perfect marriage, and their father Jamie struggled with alcohol issues while they were young. This caused his behavior to be unpredictable when they were growing up, and it put a huge strain on their children. Because of the toxic relationship, Britney told her mother she would buy her a house if she divorced Jamie, her father. Her mother did this, got the house and the divorce, and then her father basically lived at the house anyway. Jamie Lynn says their dad was there the first night that the women moved into the new house. Jamie Lynn didn't know how to act. She was so young, she was knowing her sister's wishes, but seeing her mother staying with this man, she was angry, upset, and didn't know which side to take. And at number 9, barefoot in a gas station bathroom. In 2004, Britney made the strange decision to go barefoot into a sketchy bathroom, and the media questioned her cleanliness ever since that incident. While at a gas station in Ventura, California, Britney needed to use the bathroom and decided to just use one at the gas station. Her fiancé Kevin Federline was waiting in the car for her when paparazzi snapped her walking into the unisex bathroom with bare feet. Yup, that's right. Britney decided to use a unisex gas station bathroom with no shoes on. I feel like it would honestly be hard to find any celebrity that would be okay with using a gas station bathroom in general. After that, the media exploded questioning her hygiene, and I'm sure she regrets how much media attention that small moment got. But at the end of the day, if she feels fine going barefoot, who are we to judge? And at number 8, Jamie Lynn's terrifying experience. In her new book, Jamie Lynn describes a terrifying event with her sister that sheds light on the struggles that Britney was facing at that time. She wrote, quote, "One time she said to me, 'Baby, I'm scared,' and took a large knife from the kitchen, pulled me along to my room, and she locked us both inside. She put the weapon in the bedside table drawer and simply repeated, 'I'm scared.' She needed me to sleep beside her." Jamie Lynn describes how scared she was during that incident and claims she experienced panic attacks after that. Britney responded to the shocking allegations on Twitter, denying that the event ever happened. Britney wrote, quote, "I've never been around you with a knife, or would I ever think to do such." Neither parent has made a statement about which sister is telling the truth. And at number 7, the family's Hollywood team made all the decisions. Although we are putting most of the blame on the conservatorship on Britney's father Jamie, which should be the case, we need to discuss the role that Hollywood executives had in it too. These executives also made a lot of family decisions during Jamie Lynn's unexpected teen pregnancy. This is the reason that Britney's made a point to talk about the bad job done by her previous lawyers, along with the manipulation by Lou Taylor, who was Britney's business manager at the time of her conservatorship. It is widely believed that Taylor was the real architect of the conservatorship and gave Jamie the tools he needed to control Britney's life. Jamie Lynn herself even questioned who made a lot of the decisions during her time pregnant. Jamie Lynn also stated that the media has been twisting a lot of the quotes that the sisters have said, and the media are the ones putting the wedge between the whole family. And at number 6, driving with infant on lap. In 2006, there was another incident with Britney and her new baby that actually caused the police to show up at her home to check on them. Paparazzi snapped Britney at a Malibu Starbucks driving out of the parking lot with her baby, Sean Preston, in her lap. This is not only illegal but very scary, as infants must ride in car seats to be as safe as possible on the road. When asked later about the incident, she blamed aggressive paparazzi. The paparazzi made her pull out quickly because she felt threatened. But the police did not care about this explanation, and the LA County Sheriff's Department visited Spears' home to talk about the incident at the request of county child welfare authorities. The paparazzi also clapped back at the claims and said they were not threatening her in any way. The photo agency said, quote, "These pictures were taken in a very peaceful context in which photographers exhibited no aggressive behavior." Halfway number 5, the Jason Alexander wedding. One of Britney's most controversial moments was when she decided to get married to her childhood friend in Vegas, clearly an impulsive move. Her sister Jamie Lynn gave more details surrounding this event in her book, and Jamie Lynn said she could sense that something was wrong when Britney came home for the holidays. Jamie Lynn describes Britney coming home for the holidays and acting very strange. Britney allegedly met up with Alexander on Christmas Eve before she took the women in the family on a tropical vacation. She wrote, quote, "Immediately I noticed that Britney was being secretive and keeping her distance. She wanted to be anywhere but with us. I was particularly hurt by her shunning." After the family got back from the trip, Britney flew to Vegas with friends, and Jamie Lynn knew something bad was going to happen. Jamie Lynn even remembers telling Britney not to get married. Then Britney just rolled her eyes and told her that she wouldn't. But as we know, just hours later Britney would in fact marry him. Jamie Lynn admitted she was embarrassed by the whole fiasco, though to keep up appearances she pretended at the time it was blown out of proportion. She added at that point, "The chaos of my sister's life was just beginning." In at number 4, almost dropped her son. This was another incident back in 2006 involving her newborn son. Only a week after the incident where she was caught driving with the baby on her lap, she tripped while walking in Manhattan and almost dropped her son, Sean Preston. She was leaving the Ritz-Carlton holding a drink in her right hand and Sean in her left as she maneuvered through the crowd of onlookers. Britney moved through the crowd and then she suddenly tripped. The baby's head then went backward as the hat flew off his head. Britney regained her balance and the baby seemed okay thanks to a quick reaction from the bodyguard. To make matters worse, it didn't look like she spilled a drop of the drink that she was holding in her other hand. It was reported that days later she had a breakdown over the incident. Since 2 of these similar incidents with her son happened so closely together, her parenting skills were further scrutinized by the public. In at number 3, attacks paparazzi with umbrella. One of Britney's worst moments in the press was in 2007 when she attacked a paparazzi with a green umbrella because she was so mad over all the attention she was getting. At this time, Britney was clearly going through a lot. She had just shaved her head in front of the public. It was all anyone was talking about. Britney was begging to be left alone and deal with her issues while not getting bombarded with paparazzi. But obviously that did not happen and she was hounded more than ever. At the time, her paparazzi attack became so famous that a Florida morning radio host even used photos from her breakdown on his Total Nutjobs billboards. Months after the incident, she apologized in a bizarre statement, writing, quote, "I apologize to the pop for a stunt that was done 4 months ago regarding an umbrella. I was preparing my character for a role in a movie where the husband never plays his part, so they switch places accidentally. I take all my roles very seriously and got a little carried away. Unfortunately, I didn't get the part." In at number 2, screaming at Sam Lufty. Sam Lufty is one of the most controversial people in the world of Britney Spears, and her entire family blames Sam for her eventual downfall in 2007. In 2008, the pair got in a screaming match over Britney's boyfriend at the time, paparazzo Adnan Ghalib, and this was one of many of their public fights back then. Apparently Britney and Sam got in a huge fight and Britney refused to go into his house, so she called her boyfriend, Adnan Ghalib, to come get her at Sam's house. He came right over, but when he got there, Sam would not let him get Britney. The guards were under strict orders from Sam not to let him in. He tried calling each of her 6 cell phones and the house phone, but she did not answer. Years later, Britney would get restraining orders from both Sam Lufty and Adnan Ghalib. And finally, number 1, her career was almost threatened. Back in the 90s when Britney was becoming a star, there was a man in the shadows of all the most famous boy bands who ended up scamming all of them. The man was named Lou Pearlman, and he created both the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. He wanted Spears to join a girl group that he had been working on, but she was more set on being a solo artist at the time. Thankfully, she didn't want to be in a girl group, or she would have been working with Pearlman when the members of the boy bands realized that they were being scammed. He was later sued for fraud and misrepresentation by most of the pop acts that he worked with, on top of being behind one of the largest Ponzi schemes in history. And the members of the boy bands only received a fraction of the money that he owed them.
Coming in at number 10, she's not the best actor. Madonna has completely dominated the music industry, but sadly that doesn't always translate to the silver screen. She's been in 19 films throughout the course of her career, but not all of them were shiners. Starring in the 1996 film adaptation of the musical Evita earned the singer a Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Musical or Comedy. But on the flip side, she's also won 9 Razzies. Razzies are the infamous antithesis of the Oscars for worst performances, and she won the dubious honor of Worst Actress of the Century in 2000. Rough play if you ask me. She's also turned down some pretty famous roles, including as one of the leading girls in Showgirls. While she's likely best known for acting and singing, she's also directed 2 feature films. One was in 2007 called Filth and Wisdom, the other in 2011 called W.E. Neither of these movies received the warmest of receptions from critics or audiences, and it was pretty universally panned as far as movies go. And at number 9, she suffers from brontophobia. Madonna reportedly has a massive phobia called brontophobia. Brontophobia is a fear of thunder and lightning. When she sees a storm coming, reportedly she closes all the blinds on windows and puts on giant headphones to drown out the sound of the thunder. At the end of the day, despite being one of the biggest pop stars the world has ever known, she's still very much human, with her own flaws and fears like the rest of us. Next up on the list is she dated John F. Kennedy Jr. While we all know of Madonna's infamous relationship over the years to people like Sean Penn, Vanilla Ice, Dennis Rodman, Lenny Kravitz, and Tupac, Madonna also dated the former president's son. Her disastrous marriage to Sean Penn is well recorded, and it's an open secret that it blew up due to accusations of infidelity, general chaos, and physical harm towards one another. Sean became known for his unpredictable outbursts and temper tantrums with a major jealous streak. He would often fly off the rails when he saw another man getting close to Madonna. That being said, following her messy divorce from Sean Penn, Madonna briefly dated John F. Kennedy Jr. for 6 months. In a memoir penned about the president's son that spends a bit of time delving into his romantic past, he's been linked to other celebrities like Darlie Hannah and Sarah Jessica Parker. But one of the least documented relationships he's been in was surprisingly with Madonna. Madonna was far from a big hit with the Kennedy family, with the pop star heavily leaning into the Marilyn Monroe imagery — can't imagine Jackie Kennedy being a big fan of that one — and the general disapproval of her religious iconography for fashion purposes. But the brief relationship absolutely did not last long, mostly because despite Madonna's recent past with Sean Penn, she actually found Kennedy to be much more frightening. Quote, whereas Sean would act out, perhaps give a photographer a body shot just to vent, somehow John's way seemed more personal. Madonna said that he would get up in her face, maybe an inch away, and scream at her at the top of his lungs when they were in a fight. I'm glad she left when she did. And at number 7, a bug was named after her. Listen, I know this one's out there and it's really not even a secret or something you try to hide. I just thought it was fun, so I'm putting it in. I wish the video was titled Top 10 Madonna Facts because this lady is interesting, alright? Sue me. But anyways, in 2006, scientists named a species of microscopic water-dwelling organisms, which is most commonly known as the water bear, after Madonna. The water bear's scientific name is, and bear with me, get it? Echinyscus madonnae. Don't quote me on that. It's also called a tardigrade, which is much easier. Although I'm sure it's because the researchers just loved Madonna's music, naming a bug after her is quite fitting, and I'd be proud to share a name with the water bear because it's basically invincible. Living for upwards of 120 years without food or water while withstanding harsh environmental conditions, these bugs are absolute tanks. For someone as resilient as Madonna, I'm sure she has some pride for her little bug, as both of them have managed to remain strong and consistent throughout their lives. Although it is weird that a water bug born on the same day as Madonna will outlive her by quite a few decades. Coming in at number 6, she kissed Drake at Coachella and it was so awkward. Okay, this one definitely isn't a secret considering how extensive the media coverage was, but I'm struggling here, so give me a break. At Coachella in 2015, Madonna appeared during a Drake performance where she danced around him while he was sitting in a chair. Then she went right up to him and basically stuck her tongue down his throat on stage for all to see. The shocked look on Drake's face afterwards definitely wasn't pleasant, and the non-consensuality of it all was definitely an extremely hot topic. Coming in at number 5, Madonna doesn't like being a material girl. One little known fact about Madonna is that she has remarked that she regrets ever recording the track that would become her moniker, Material Girl. It is one of her most famous songs and became the nickname that she is most often represented by. Similarly, she also doesn't feel like she wants to be associated with a song like a virgin either. Quote, I like them both because they were iconic and provocative at the time, but also they're so unlike me. I'm not a materialistic person, and I certainly wasn't a virgin. And by the way, how can you be like a virgin? I like the play on words. I thought they were clever. They're so geeky, they're cool. She also said that she never expected Material Girl to become as big of a hit as it was. Quote, I've never been a good judge of what things are going to be huge or not. I'm resourceful, and if I ended up in a log cabin in the middle of the forest, that would work too. These things are not mandatory for my happiness. That's what I meant by I'm not a materialistic person. Coming in at number 4, she didn't actually move to New York City with only $35. Okay, so this one may be a bit disputed, but there may not be tons of truth to the infamous up-and-coming Madonna story. The legend is that Madonna left her small rural town where she lived with her 5 other siblings and traveled to one of the most expensive cities in the world, New York. Apparently, she also only had $35 in her pocket and used that money to claw her way up to fame. It is a true rags to riches story about using pure willpower and drive to become one of the greatest stars of all time. But it may not even be true. In fact, Madonna's own brother disputes this story. He stated that, in fact, she had a few $100s in her pocket given to her by family to help her start out, and she had some connections and contracts underway to immediately start as a backup dancer once she landed in the city. While it's still an extremely impressive feat to go from pure normalcy with little money to just how big Madonna is, the story of her only having $35 may be a case of broken telephone, and people deliberately stretching the truth to make it seem even more impossible than it already was. Coming in at number 3, Madonna reminded Beyonce and Jay-Z that she is the master. Again, also not a secret because people ran with it, but Madonna has posted a Photoshop picture of Jay-Z and Beyonce gazing at photos of Madonna's album. She captioned it, quote, "learning from the master." People were pissed that a white woman used the term master to show her superiority over two black individuals. In response, Madonna didn't delete the post, but she did edit the word master out of it so it just said learning instead. I guess that works too. Coming in at number 2, Madonna and Prince wanted to make a musical together. In a 1989 interview with Madonna, she was asked who her musical aspirations are, and she named Prince as a vocalist that she admired. She then discussed her collaboration called Love Song. Quote, "We've been friends for years and admire each other's work, so we'd always talked about getting together to write. And in fact, there was a moment last year where we were possibly going to write a musical together. I went to a studio in Minnesota and worked on some stuff just to get a feel of what it would be like to collaborate." She then stated that her and Prince had a lot of difficulty creating a completed track. After she worked with him consistently for a few days, she left the studio. She no longer had any interest in writing a musical with him. Then, a while later, Prince approached Madonna with a demo that she enjoyed, but they ended up having to write the full track together long distance because Prince lived in Minneapolis and Madonna hated Minneapolis. The track, Love Song, did not chart the Billboard Hot 100. And finally at number 1, Madonna regrets posing naked for her book. While this article was posted quite a few years ago when Madonna was 49 years old, and she's 63 now, Madonna has stated that she seriously regrets posing naked so often in her youth. In her 1992 book, Sex, she believes that the reception of it was less about the beauty of the female form and expressing sexuality, and more so about how people branded her as an exhibitionist. She admitted that, at one point, she was much less adventurous, branding herself as prude. Quote, "I really was not getting up to much. I don't think I was as naughty as I could have been. I was quite straight. I was a geek when I was young. I did not really do much that was interesting." I think from what I got from this interview, it was less about the actual posing naked that she regrets, but more so about the public's reception about the book. It branded her as loose rather than expressing beauty through art.
At number 10, bribes. At this point, we all know that the Kardashians have a my way or the highway kind of attitude. They will get what they want by any means necessary, and we've seen this a few times over the Kardashians' respective careers, but one of the lesser known times that this sort of attitude came out was when Kris Jenner was trying to save her short-lived talk show. Mama Jenner dreamed of being a talk show host, but those dreams were sort of crushed when her talk show premiered in the summer of 2013. She got a series of reviews, and when she read them, she came across one that she really didn't like. One reviewer named Linda Stassi from the New York Post wrote a column about the show and called Kris a quote, "a demented Norma Desmond," end quote. Well, because Kris didn't like what Linda had wrote about her, she decided to send the writer a bribe of a dozen Magnolia cupcakes and a $325 sterling silver pen from Tiffany's, along with a note saying to write a better review next time. In the end though, this bribe didn't actually work because her show was cancelled not long after. At number 9, sweatshops. The Kardashians have faced backlash and scandal many times in the past, so really they're nothing new, but one of their more extreme scandals came from when one of their many clothing brands got exposed. In 2011, a Kardashian clothing brand came under fire after it was revealed that the garments were being produced by Chinese workers being paid 8 cents a day. Can you imagine these millionaires paying workers 8 cents? Insane, right? A non-profit organization called China Labor Watch, a group that fights sweatshops, released this information during investigation into the Kardashian brand. Of course, Mama Jenner came in and stepped in, and she claimed that they didn't know anything about that, going on to say, quote, "The factories are very well policed and meet factory standards," end quote. No one is talking about the factory standards, Chris. We're talking about basically not paying people for making clothes that you're about to sell for $100 a piece. That's the tea. Before we carry on dishing about the Kardashian secrets though, why not take a quick moment to leave a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and while you're at it, maybe consider subscribing to the channel to see more videos like this one. At number 8, Kardashian divorce. Remember when Kim K was married to Kris Humphries? Yeah, that was kind of a blip in the Kardashian timeline, but hey, it still happened. They were only married for 72 days, but it was still messy, and their subsequent divorce was just as messy. The cameras for their show Keeping Up with the Kardashians showed off much of their tumultuous marriage, but the cameras were ultimately cut when it came to their divorce, but it wasn't for lack of trying. Kim wanted to film her goodbye call with Kris over Skype, where she was going to say her final farewells and tell him that she really loved him. But Kris saw right through Kim's attempt to get content out of their divorce and flat out refused, saying that he refused to ever be on another episode ever again. Honestly, I can't blame him for making that decision. At number 7, Nanny Knows. The Kardashians have been exposed for a lot over the years by countless people. Honestly, this could be its own video in and of itself, if we haven't already done that. Anyways, one of the people that joined the Exposing the Kardashians club was the family's former nanny. The nanny, a woman named Pam Behan, exposed Kris for her parenting. Although Kris looks like a cool, fun mom, almost acting like one of the Kardashian sisters rather than a parent, according to the nanny, that is all a charade and couldn't be farther from the truth. Turns out that Kris was actually a really mean mom. She said that all of the girls were really shallow and even exposed Kris for being mean to Khloe and criticizing her for being overweight. On top of that, according to the nanny, Kris was also a stickler for healthy foods, saying that she was obsessed with keeping produce in the house, and she even exposed her for having a meltdown when she forgot to pick up broccoli. Now that is a very different side of Kris Jenner that we never get to see. At number 6, Always Perfect. Kylie and Kendall Jenner are the babies of the Kar Jenner clan, and they were pretty young when they started to rise to fame. Because the cameras were always on them, and because they were starting to gain notoriety on their own, their mom Kris decided that they needed to look perfect at all times to make themselves and the family look better in the eyes of the media. In an interview with Cosmopolitan in 2017, Kylie opened up about this dynamic in her young life and revealed that Kris Jenner had nail techs come to the house every week to do the girls' nails to make sure that they looked as perfect as possible. Kylie said that because this was ingrained in her from such a young age, that this just became a habit of hers even going into her adult life, which is why we see Kylie flexing her new nails on the gram. In the interview, she went into further detail about having to look put together all the time, where she said, quote, "My mom would make us do it. She would have a nail artist come to the house once a week. She would make us get our nails done. She was like, you are never going to look like you're not put together, so we're always getting them done." End quote. At number 5, who started the show? The family's reality show Keeping Up with the Kardashians has been on air for so long that it almost feels like it has been on TV forever. Obviously, it wasn't actually on TV since like the beginning of time, but it was certainly a staple in a lot of people's homes. This show really boosted the careers of all of the Kar Jenners, but who had the original idea for the show? Well, that's up for debate. According to Caitlyn Jenner, she wrote in her book that she was the one who came up with the initial idea for the reality show, not Kris, as many were led to believe. In the memoir, Caitlyn wrote that she told Kris about her idea for the show, saying, quote, "The house is awash in puberty and adolescence and young adulthood, and 2 parents with very different styles. It seems to me something is there for television." End quote. She then goes on to say that Kris then claimed to have come up with the idea for the show and then took it upon herself to pitch the show to Ryan Seacrest, and the rest is history. Talk about starting things off on a sour note. At number 4, private investigator. Back to past Kardashian relationships. Remember when Khloe Kardashian and Lamar Odom were a thing? Yeah, super messy, as most Kardashian marriages tend to be. But this one was ultra messy because it turns out that at one point, Khloe hired a private investigator to follow Lamar around to watch if he was cheating on Khloe. This was something that we didn't get to see on the family's reality show, but apparently the private investigator was hired to catch Lamar with at least 5 different mistresses. But why put all this effort into a supposed cheater? Well, it turns out that there was a specific clause in their prenuptial agreement that if one of them was caught cheating, then the divorce settlement payout would be larger to the other party. This means that with the help of her private investigator, Khloe would be able to get a higher settlement in the divorce. The things people do for money. At number 3, fake homes. You know how on Keeping Up with the Kardashians, when they start a new scene in a new place, they show the front of the person's house? Well, it turns out that's kind of a lie. The houses that they show in the reality show aren't actually the Kardashians' real houses. In the beginning, they used to show the front of the Kardashians' houses, but soon it became a safety issue as it made it easy for people to find them. Kim opened up about why they decided to use fake houses instead of their real exteriors, saying, quote, "My old home in Beverly Hills was really my home, and I would get people showing up at all hours ringing my gate, and I had to call the police on several occasions. People hopping the gate and scaring me. It was so unsafe. The Hollywood Star Tours would stop by too because they recognized my home from our show. After that, we realized how unsafe it was to show the exterior of our homes, so now we use different homes for the outside for security purposes." Though they do use different homes as the exterior shots, Kim did confirm that they do actually film inside of their real houses. At number 2, original goal. Keeping Up with the Kardashians became a mega hit where people just tuned in to watch the drama unfold with the Kardashians. I would be lying if I said that this show wasn't secretly my guilty pleasure. It's just so chaotic and I love it. But it turns out that the original purpose for the show wasn't just to simply keep up with the Kardashians. They had ulterior motives. According to Mama Kris Jenner, the original purpose for the show was to bring attention to the Kardashians' clothing stores Dash and Smoosh. Their store Dash became the focal point for their reality show spin-offs like Kourtney and Khloe Take Miami and Dash Dolls. During an interview with Variety in 2015, Kim shared how they wanted to use the show to grow their business, saying, quote, "When the opportunity for our TV show came about, I wanted to do it to bring attention to our stores. I was thinking this might not last very long, but will grow a great business and expand online. I thought it would be great press. I didn't think it would turn into what it turned into." End quote. Their stores ended up closing in 2018, but at that point they had so many other things going on and the show wasn't even boosting their business anymore, so really, who cares? And finally, at number 1, new phones. Even a pandemic can't stop the Kardashians from creating content. The 19th season of the reality show was filmed over the course of the lockdown, and it was all done from the inside of the Kardashians' mansions. How they managed to pull all of this off is a little crazy though. Because camera crews weren't considered to be essential workers during California's stay-at-home orders, the Kardashians had to get creative, and so they created a system where every week someone would bring them a new iPhone to film on. They had proper sets built in Kim and Khloe's homes with lighting and the whole 9 yards for their confessionals, but yeah, I still can't get past the iPhone thing. Apparently, a showrunner wearing head-to-toe protective gear would come to the Kardashians' home on Monday morning to bring them a brand new iPhone to start the next cycle of filming. These Kardashians are so crazy. Now before we wrap things up for today, I want you guys to leave a comment down below telling me what you think was the juiciest secret on this list. There's a bunch to choose from, so leave me your thoughts down below. Anyways, that's it for me. I've been your host, Brie Room, and until next time, stay safe, make good choices, and stay groovy, friends.